Hello and welcome back to the ROKER RAPPORT podcast. I'm Michael Dunne, and today I'm delighted to be joined with a man who not only shares the same surname and nationality as myself, a man who also played for Sunderland on loan from January 2019, making 12 appearances, scoring 1 goal. Jimmy Dunne, how are you?
Very well, yeah. Thanks for speaking to me.
Thanks for coming on. So you're on your holidays now, a couple of weeks off, you were saying?
Yeah, not very long break, but a couple of weeks to recover and go again in no time. Back into the third pre-season in what feels like 5 months at this stage, so it's quite tough.
So what have you been kind of doing yourself now on the time off?
Well, I would usually be always trying to use the time off to gain fitness and things like that, but I think this break I'm actually going to take a break because it's been so hectic, and there's been we've had a full lockdown of everybody running and everybody training, not knowing when we're going to come back. And I think now that we've got a bit of clarity and we know when our dates back are and stuff like that, I think it's a good time to actually spend a week not thinking about football and just recovering and being normal for a little while before we go again.
Did you find it hard, I suppose, because the season was so, it went on for so much longer than thought? Was it hard mentally to kind of keep focused?
Yeah, I think it was one of them, but the situation I was in, I had to be prepared just in case. So you're concentrating, but then you're not playing at the same time. So you have to keep fit, and you have to just in case kind of thing. And it was mental toughness more than anything, and just staying prepared and not taking your foot off the gas just in case the opportunity arises to come on. But I think everybody over lockdown had that kind of frustration of when and what and what's going on. But it was good to get the clarity back and know what's going on now. We've got our dates for when we're supposed to come back, and that's just kind of settles the head a little bit.
Yeah, and you were involved in the Burnley squads after Project Restart. How surreal was that experience, even going into the Turf Moor or any of the stadiums you're in, no crowds there? What's the protocol going in for the matches?
Yeah. I think it was really weird because as a young lad, I'm sure being on the bench in the Premier League and going into these stadiums, the atmosphere must usually be surreal. And when the boys got a 1-1 draw against Liverpool in Anfield, usually that would be and it did feel amazing, but it would have been 70,000 or whatever it is, and it would have been the fans would have been going crazy, and it would have been a completely different adrenaline, and it would have been a completely different experience being on the bench in that environment than it was with nobody there. But that's how it was, and it was still incredible. I'd probably get to see more of an insight and listen to what the players are saying on the pitch more, and how differently they do it to other levels of football I've been at and stuff. So it's been a class experience for me.
Yeah. And would you have to isolate after games and stuff? Are you staying away from family and friends after matches? Or are you allowed to kind of interact with people?
Yeah, I think just as soon as you leave the football ground, it's just normal social rules that apply to anyone. Everyone's with their families in their home, the same as the government guidelines have been for anybody who is or isn't an athlete. But in terms of in the change room before the games, we're keeping a distance. For the Man City game, we had to spread out so much that I was in a completely different change room compared to the rest of the lads. Some of them all together, and we were just everywhere spread out because we had to follow the guidelines. So I think they've done the best they can to make it work. It's just whether or not this has to continue into the new season. Hopefully not, but I mean, who knows?
Yeah, well, it doesn't look great at the moment. And Burnley triggered the extension of your contract by a year, am I right in saying? So have you spoken to Sean Dyche about what your plans are for next season?
Yeah, I think that's something I'll probably discuss a little bit more now when we go back into pre-season and see how the market goes for the club and what situation that the team and stuff will be in. Maybe see how I got on in pre-season. I do need to go play games as well, but at the same time, I'm learning a lot from being around this standard of players, so I'm benefiting and improving a lot just from being surrounded in that environment. So regardless of what happens, I think it's good for me.
Yeah, because your position, central defender, is probably one of Burnley's strongest, with Tarkowski, Ben Mee, Kevin Long, and that. So it's strong competition, isn't it?
Yeah, it's strong competition, but it's not really. I don't really feel as though I'm trying to compete with them as such. It's just an opportunity for me to learn off defenders that are absolutely brilliant. And if I can get anywhere near where they are, then that'll be a huge achievement for me. Like I get surrounded by them players every day, so that's benefiting me so much. I feel fortunate for that.
Yeah. Well, we're here to talk about your time at Sunderland, Jimmy. You obviously came in January 2019. So how did the move come about for you? Remember?
The move came about for me because I was playing at Hearts, and Jack Ross obviously had a lot of connections with Hearts, and I think particularly connections with some people at Kilmarnock and stuff like that. And I just played against Kilmarnock, and obviously that was a league he watched. So when Sunderland needed a centre back, they got in touch. I got injured at Hearts at the time, so I wasn't sure whether I was going to be able to get back fit in time for getting it done. I remember worrying a little bit whether or not I'd be able to get back fit enough in time and stuff like that. But we got over the line, and it was great.
Would you have been happy to stay at Hearts, or were you happy to come down to Sunderland? Or did you kind of have a choice in that situation?
I think, I did absolutely have a choice, and I did have to think about it because it was going really well. I was going really well at Hearts, but I don't think. And I spoke to Craig Levine, the Hearts manager, and we both kind of agreed that when an opportunity comes up like this, at such a fantastic club like Sunderland, then you just got to take it. So I definitely don't have any regrets in that department.
And one of your first games, right in saying you scored against Oxford, so you got off to a good start.
Yeah, I felt like relieved at the start that I'd gotten back fit, because I was a bit anxious about whether or not I'd be able to play early doors. So yeah, we got off to a good start playing games, got my goal in there. But still, the clean sheet problem didn't really fix itself because we kept drawing, kept conceding a goal late on or stuff like that. And that was the frustrating part, that we couldn't really get the wins in there. We just kept drawing.
But why was that? I mean, there's so many 1-1 draws. Is there any one reason for that, or is it just a mixture of things and just football is like that, I suppose?
I think we got into habits of loads of things. I think when teams get into a role of winning, then it's nearly too hard not to win. And when you get into a role of losing, it's hard to ever get your win. And we just got into a habit of kind of drawing and maybe thinking well, that's okay, the win will come, and it didn't. We nearly just got into the habit of it. And as well as crazy things, Scunthorpe was my first game, and it was they scored a worldie in the 85th minute or something at the end. It was Oxford, the end of the Oxford game, there was a horrendous decision, and 1-1 again. We're oh my God, what is going on? Yeah. And it's hard to kind of break them habits. To talk about it all day, but that's how it was.
And would there be a fear, I suppose, in the team to sit back when they're 1-0 up, or is Jack Ross telling you to go for the second, go for the third, or are we, as a team, we're Sunderland trying to stay compact after going 1-0 up? Because that's what some fans seem to think, that Ross was maybe a bit too conservative when they got the 1-0 lead and they didn't kill games off, maybe.
Yeah, look, a lot of the times where we scored late on. So Max Power's goal against
Peterborough.
It was that was late on anyway. So it's not like we were going to go and try and get a second when we had only scored in the 85th minute or something like that. So I don't remember the manager ever specifically telling us to go and try and get a second, go and try and get a third. I did think he gave us a lot of freedom. But I mean, maybe the defending for us, not being able to, you have to be able to win 1-0. If you're going to go win a league or get promotion, you've got to be able to see out 1-0s. 1-0 is such a good scoreline. I know Burnley do it all the time, where they can score and they can keep that clean sheet. It's obviously a really hard skill to do, but that's probably, that was probably our biggest thing. We couldn't win 1-0 ever.
You mentioned Burnley there. What makes Burnley so good at doing this? What does Sean Dyche implement into the team?
Well, it's obviously a mentality that's grown over a long period of time. So Jack Ross was a new manager to the club, new players. It definitely takes time to develop a system that completely works anywhere. Obviously, that's when you're at a club like Sunderland, the time's not really something that you get much of. But the gaffer at Burnley has had the time to implement his ideas and how the players work, and we know how to work. Ben's our captain, and he's been here for a few years now, and he knows exactly how the system works and what shape we want to maintain and how we want to play and stuff like that. So I think maybe these things take time once we're all on the same wavelength. Whereas at Sunderland, we were trying to patch things up and players maybe had to fill in places and new players come in and stuff like that. And I thought it was difficult for Jack Ross to be able to really get a culture going with such little time. And maybe he could have done with a bit of luck. You know what I mean? Like a bit of luck would have been amazing, and he'd maybe still be the manager now. And you know what I mean? But as I say, it's you don't get these opportunities forever, and we fluffed it at the time. So,
were you surprised they let him go this year?
Well, I really liked Jack Ross. I thought he was brilliant. I didn't think he did anything wrong. He tried to fill us with confidence. He tried to tell us to play freely and tried to get us to enjoy training and tried to give us ideas how to play. He was definitely very patient with me and gave me the opportunities. So like I thought he was brilliant, but as I say, like if you don't get what the objective is at Sunderland, obviously that it's a Premier League club, it's supposed to be in the Premier League. So if you're not making movements towards that, then I get how fans get frustrated and people feel as though they might need a change.
Yeah, but people seem to think, the players and stuff, that like Jack Ross is a great manager to work under. He's a great man manager. He seemed to that seemed to be something you were saying there. He gets along with all the players very well.
Yeah, he took an interest in people, which is important. I don't know anything about being a manager or anything, but Jack Ross definitely took an interest in people and tried to understand how people worked. And for me, he was the right balance of supportive and strict. You know what I mean? Because there is a balance, and there's no point of battering players all the time until their confidence is gone. And also, you can build the player up too much where maybe they're not concentrating as much. So he did try and get that balance right. All you can do is try. Like every character in the changing room was different. So but he definitely made the effort to try and get it right with everyone.
And was there a good team spirit there? I mean, you'd like lads like Cattermole, George Honeyman, who were kind of leadership. They seemed to kind of carry, but they were big, strong characters in the dressing room.
Yeah, like it obviously wasn't probably the best team spirit that you'd ever get in a changing room. Not for any other reason than it was new. It was new, and these things definitely take time. Like when a new manager and new staff come in, and there's new players come in, and people are different. Like some of the players that I was closest to at the very start, I was closer to other players 6 months later. So like I definitely feel like I would have loved to have been there a year to like get through my ups and downs and find a consistent level. And I feel like a lot of lads were like that. A lot of lads hit form and came out of form, and a lot of lads were happy and not happy. And for me, it just went like that anyway. So it must have been difficult as a manager and as a staff to be able to like bond a culture together. Like we tried to do loads of things and go for meals together, and we did get on. But I think there was maybe some issues as well the lads needed to sort out between themselves.
No. Well, what sort of issues would they have been? Just lads mightn't have got along from previous seasons, or?
Like maybe just things like disagreements in training, minor things that aren't unusual in changing rooms. But I think like maybe some of the older lads wanted to be different than some of the younger lads used to do. I think we had a bit of an age gap in the changing room anyway.
Yeah.
And yeah, maybe that's difficult to mould the younger and the older lads together. So there was maybe that little bit of a split. And then in any changing room again, there's always like maybe kind of certain people that get on with certain people and stuff like that. Not that the changing room wasn't good enough. It was definitely good enough to get promotion. We were definitely a close-knit group. But nitpicking at things now, like maybe there was a little bit of a split in some areas.
Yeah. What impact would the Netflix, the cameras and stuff had on the changing room and training and stuff? Was that something you liked, or you just didn't really take notice of it? I
think you'd be lying if you said it wasn't a distraction in some ways. And I think you'd be lying if you said you're completely comfortable in acting yourself when cameras are there compared to when they're not there. Like, I think surely it must have made some people act and feel a bit different. There's no way everybody could have been cool with it. It's not what you're used to in your day-to-day. I think fair enough, the games, like game day is like massive anyway. There's thousands of fans and everything's getting filmed anyway. So I think don't think it really made a difference on game day, but I think like walking around the training ground and like having your breakfast and getting filmed all day, then for me it was a little bit weird. But I don't think we'll ever really know if it affected in a positive or negative way, but I would find it harder to believe that it had a positive effect.
Yeah.
I don't see how it could have. It would have just been a nice moment to capture if things worked out, but unfortunately not.
Well, they got their ending, but a different sort of ending with the 2 Wembley defeat finals. But just when you were talking about the cameras there, would you have interacted with them much, or like did the players have a choice to say, "Look, I don't want to talk to you," or I mean, are you obliged to speak to them?
They try and get you to speak to them. I spoke to them loads, and lots of us spoke to them. Obviously, way more than what it would show in the documentary. I think what they tried to do was film everything as much as they can, and then see how things end up, and then see what story makes sense. So I feel like if my story had been different at Sunderland, then maybe would have seen me in the documentary more. But I think they wanted to see how it ends up and then put something together.
You obviously, we just mentioned the Wembley finals there. You were part of the 2 finals on the bench, but still must have been a fantastic experience to play in Wembley, or just be involved in a team that's in Wembley final.
Yeah, no, that was heartbreaking experience. Probably the worst experience of.
I know.
Yeah, probably the toughest to take both times, because I'd gone through like such hilly periods at Sunderland where like I'd be in the team and win a great game, it would be great. So like I think the 2 games before the Wembley playoff final, I think was Doncaster.
Yeah.
And it was like clean sheet, played great, back in the team, feel amazing, fans back on my side, thank God. Like, and then the next game was like Peterborough, where we messed up, 1-1. Oh no, we're not going to get automatic. Fans off your case. Oh my God! Like, no, it's a disaster again. It was, for me, it was like that so much. It was like they hate me, then they love me, then they hate me more, and it was like, but yeah. So then it was like a drop for the playoff final, and I'd been playing in the games up to that, so it was tough to take.
Yeah, and you were playing quite well. I remember that Doncaster game specifically, you played very well, and obviously the Peterborough game conceded the 93rd minute, but like solid performance, a good draw. You would take a draw at Peterborough because they were up there as well. What was Jack Ross saying to you at the time?
Nothing. Like, this is probably why I like Jack Ross so much. I would never blame him for not putting me in the team, because I feel like I probably didn't hit the level of consistency that I should have. Like, there was too many draws. There was games where I didn't perform properly, and I had to just take responsibility for that. Like, at my age, it is a stage of learning, and it is going to be like that sometimes. But unfortunately, when you're playing for a club like Sunderland, and there's so much at stake, that it can't be acceptable. So Jack Ross is put in a position where he has to make these decisions. And for the finals, he went with older, more experienced pros. But it's obviously where I'm trying to get to.
Yeah. And in those situations, do you kind of have to support the lads that are playing, or are you kind of still disappointed you're not involved? And
No, you get your disappointment out of the way. Like, you're not playing, but the most important thing, and definitely individually and collectively, was to be promoted. That's the one thing that works out better for everyone anyway. Yeah. Like, I'd love to look back now and say we got promoted that season with Sunderland, whether I played in the final or not. So yeah, I definitely would never be better or anything like that. Yeah. And I really supported the lads and wanted the club to get what they deserved.
You were talking there about how it was an up and down experience for yourself at Sunderland. Obviously the fans can be quite intense when things are going well and when things aren't going as well. Is there a lot of pressure playing for Sunderland? Would you find that as a young guy coming up? Were you surprised at how intense the atmosphere could be?
Yeah, people have told me, mates with Paddy McNair, and he played there and he experienced. And Paddy's quite a cool customer anyway, so maybe he used to. He played for Man United, so but he even said that the fans are intense. Like, it's highs and lows. Like, things are going great, it's unbelievable. When things aren't going so well, it's the worst disaster in the world. So I think as a player, and if I'd have known this now, I'd have been more level-headed through each game and every performance, and not got disappointed if it didn't go well, but also not got excited if it did went well. And I think that would have helped me find the level of consistency a little bit more. And that obviously would have worked out better for the club then. But, you know, when the fans are unbelievably passionate, and when it means so much to people like that, like, you've got to understand that it is going to be like the world to them. And it's something that I understand now, you know, but at the time it's a completely new experience, and you just get thrown in and no time to think about it. So.
And would you have had like much interaction with fans outside of training and stuff? Would you bump into them? Would they be chatting to you?
Yeah, all the time. Like, and I like my cafes, and there's some lovely. Trying to think of the particular area in Sunderland where I used to always go for a coffee now, but I can't remember. I'll have to remember that one later. But yeah, always the Sunderland fans are everywhere. Even like even in their even in Newcastle, where like you would have thought there'd only be Newcastle fans or whatever. There's loads of Sunderland fans everywhere, like, and they'd always recognise you and want to talk to you, and not just want to talk to you, but want to find out like what is going on. Like, it's not just, can I have a picture and how are you? It was like, what is going on? What do we need to do? How do you think? What do you think about it? And they really wanted to be involved, and that's the type of club Sunderland is. Like, it's all about the fans. They are totally connected to the team. And they wanted to be, and the players wanted to be connected to them.
Yeah. And do you remember the memory? Probably one that I remember as well. The film of it was the King's Cross station coming in for the Trade final. Do you remember that?
Easy. That was like, felt like you're playing for Real Madrid. Like, that was like outrageous getting off the train. It was like, you'd think it would at least be a London club you played for if you're getting off the train in London. Like, and they've travelled all that way. What was there, like 40,000 of them?
Yeah.
Oh my God, all waiting for you, like, sensational. Yeah, what an experience.
Yeah, that sums them up, like.
Yeah.
And obviously Josh Maja, who was at Sunderland, you probably didn't play with him or get to know him, left in January. Will Grigg came in after him, and I kind of seen from the outside that Will Grigg, maybe he just didn't settle in Sunderland. Maybe it was confidence or something. Was that something you might have noticed in training? Did he maybe feel the pressure of playing for Sunderland as well?
I played with Josh once. He obviously, and he scored in that game, the Scunthorpe game. He obviously was comfortable and in good form.
Yeah.
And you ask any striker, once you get into the flow of good form, it's like you're on top of the world. Will had like a bit of trouble with injuries. Then you're travelling up all that way from Manchester and things like that. And like, it's hard. Like, what, he came in January. How could you get it to click like that? Like, I've never understood how that could be expected. Like, when you take a striker into a club, you maybe have 6 months getting used to it, and then the next season would be a season. You just don't get that at Sunderland. You don't get that at any clubs that are competing for something that's so important to them. And we needed at the time to someone come in and score like 15 goals. But like, that's probably unrealistic. We did see Will's quality, like, loads and loads and loads, but it probably just didn't get appreciated as much. And we definitely seen it in training. His finishing was unbelievable, like, but obviously just found it difficult to get into form in the games.
It's that kind of thing, isn't it? You need to hit the ground running with an early goal to kind of get the confidence going as a striker, isn't it?
Yeah, and a bit of luck. A bit of luck would have been great. Like, he, in the Oxford game, one of his first games, like, he was on fire, and when it just wouldn't fall in the right place ever for him. And like, but like, his movement was class, and then he got a bit on foot. Like, his injuries, like, when a striker gets injured and he can't move as freely as he could before, it's so tough.
It was a shame, really, the way that season had ended, because we had a great, up until maybe the Trade final, we were flying it. I think we had a couple of games in hand. We were just talking earlier with the draws we got. What was the confidence maybe near the end of the season after the Wembley defeat that maybe hit us? Or there's just too many games? Or is there one thing particularly that? I
think there was such a build-up of like pressure that it was like, I don't think anyone felt relaxed, like, or anyone actually really felt as if they were really looking forward to it. Like, you sometimes get a feeling, regardless of the result, whatever, you're just looking forward to playing for Sunderland. But I mean, it's so different when you play for Sunderland, that division. There's more pressure playing for Sunderland in League One, I think, than there is playing in the Premier League, because there's such an eagerness to get back to where they should be. And they don't want to be there in the slightest at all. So it was like, there was so much pressure on the lads and the staff to just make sure that we got promoted regardless. And I think with all that build up of pressure, it was nearly like setting ourselves up for failure. I think like if there was just like a freedom and a more fun maybe, then it would just come through our quality, because we had such a good team. I feel like if we hadn't just not tried to get promoted, we might have. But we maybe tried, felt like we nearly tried too hard and put too much pressure on ourselves.
So you suggested maybe almost a fear of failure at the club at the time.
Yeah, the fear of failure, yeah, probably, yeah. Maybe not individually though, but just kind of collectively, like, oh my God, we have to get promoted here. Like, we have to. Like, if we don't, it's such a disaster. Like, they'll hate us. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. Maybe that was a part of it. Like, I'm as well kind of guessing. Like, you ask 15 of the other lads at the time, they'll have other thoughts about why, and I'm trying to speak more collectively and not individually. But I feel like maybe the fear of failure and the total build up of pressure, along with all everything that was new, the new players and the new staff and the new everything, then it was difficult. Like, it was difficult.
And would that pressure have come from the manager? Would the manager be very relaxed character with you? Like, would he be?
Yeah, there was no pressure off. There was no pressure off the manager. He was all the time trying to encourage us to break the shackles off. That's what he used to say: break the shackles off. Forget about whatever the outside noise is, and what people are saying off the pitch. Just block it out. Enjoy your football. That is what he encouraged. But I mean, like, the voice of like the Sunderland fans is so big, and the voice from all the other teams in the league and all the other clubs from other leagues looking at us and looking at where we are and where we should be. It's more that kind of pressure.
Would you speak to many of the lads now?
Yeah. Speak to Luke all the time, and some of the other boys as well. We stay in touch, and like, I'm a fan of, like, I want them, the lads that are still there, to get promoted and to get back to where they should be as well.
Yeah, what's your thoughts now for next season? Do you think you might get to stay on loan, or go out on loan, or stay at Burnley? You were at Fleetwood there for a while there. How did that go for yourself personally?
Yeah, the Fleetwood one was weird. It was just a matter of, like, you know, I obviously, where I am at Burnley, like, I have to work off the players that are ahead of me. And at the time at Burnley, I thought I was maybe going to stay for the season, but with Ben Gibson being there and stuff, there was already 4 centre backs. So it was literally deadline day where I found out, like, I need to go on loan. I was like, oh, I need to go on loan, need to get a club. And I was like, all right, I'm out. Like, you need to go play League One. Like, I know Fleetwood had ambitions of getting promoted as well, and I want to be part of that again. So it was like, bang, I'm there. And again, it was just a matter of getting the games in, keep getting the experiences at my age. Like, as a centre back, there's so much learning. There's so much concentration. There's so much I need to improve on. That the games are important for me, regardless. Kind of, obviously, I want to play at the highest level I can play at and fulfill my potential. But a little bit is regardless of the level. It's just getting the experience in. So I was brilliant. I played another whatever amount of games there and got that experience in. And there was more highs and lows and more things to learn from. And now with the situation at Burnley, where they've only 3 first team centre backs, of trying to become the 4th one, and learning off the lads ahead of me and pushing them and learning off them and try and get to where they are. Obviously, like, the centre backs at the minute, like Kev is an Irish international and played X amount of times in the Premier League now. Ben's our captain. James Tarkowski's an English international. Like, they're like, to select centre backs to learn off, like, it doesn't really get much better. So I'm fortunate for that.
Yeah. And just briefly, I was mentioning Fleetwood there. You're working under a man that won't be very popular amongst Sunderland fans, Joey Barton. How was that? What was that experience like for yourself? Yeah,
brilliant. Like, different, but I would like, it's experience. Like, learning off different people, different managers is great for me. I've had so many managers now in the last 5 or 6 years, all with different ideas. None quite like Joey in a lot of ways.
In what ways?
You know, he's completely got his own ideas, and he acts a lot differently to a lot of managers do. But I got that experience. I'm delighted I did. I learned a lot. I learned a lot there. I learned a lot of him. I learned a lot of his staff, Clint Hill and stuff. So another brilliant experience for me that I take on.
Yeah. And you've been called up to Republic of Ireland a few times now. I mean, that must be something you're one of your biggest ambitions going forward, especially now with Stephen Kenny coming in. He might look towards more younger people?
Yeah, that's brilliant. That's brilliant, and obviously Stephen Kenny has been amazing, and thankfully he does look to the youth, and he's done a brilliant job with the 21s and stuff, and how well they've done. For me, I think to put myself into that situation, I just need to get back out playing again, show people what I can do, find my form, find my feet again. It's obviously been a long period now without playing because of, well, firstly lockdown and then being on the bench so much. I think the next step for me is that if I'm not knocking on the door at Burnley, to be out somewhere showing people what I can do again.
And you you got called up by Martin O'Neill and Roy Keane, two ex-Sunderland managers. And what was the experience working with them?
Yeah, brilliant. It was only like 2 camps, 1 game, but I got a taste for it. So I got a taste for it, and obviously there's a few Burnley lads there and stuff, and I roomed with Kev Long and stuff like that. So it was comfortable for me. It was I enjoyed it. I enjoyed seeing how different international football is from club football. It was really different. So that was like special, and and obviously it was a really proud moment for me. It was like a little taste into what I really want and where I want to be.
What would be the biggest differences between club and international football? I know there's shorter windows, but is the style of play different from most countries?
Yeah, it's like a chess game. International football. It's like a slower, more technical game. There's a lot of trying to save energy in the game. Whereas like a lot of the games in club football is like 100 mile an hour, blah blah. International football wasn't really like that. The whole build up to it was different. Obviously, you've got like a week to prepare for one game and kind of only that game. And you're with the lads in a hotel all week and stuff like that, and training's different, and you're all coming from different clubs and stuff, and you all have different ways of playing, but then you have to mold it together. So it's just that, and again, like I keep saying it, but it's just loads of different strange experiences and different experiences that I'm glad I gathered as early as possible, because in the next like 8-10 years of my career, I'm going to need all these experiences. I'll need to be able to make them work for me.
Yeah. You didn't see Roy King Kung Fu Kick a Tactics sport, right? No?
Didn't see any of that.
Am I right in saying that it was Michael O'Neill tried to poach you for the North one stage? Is that right?
I've got a granny that was born in Enniskeane, so like I think I could technically play for Northern Ireland. That it was something I spoke to Michael about. Like I was playing in Hearts at the time, and he lived in Edinburgh, and we spoke about like would it be good for me? Like, am I going to play for a Republic of Ireland one day? Like, what is it about? He didn't necessarily try to push me more than discuss it with me. Discuss what would be good for me. Like what I think about it. But like I'm born and raised in Dundalk, and that's like I wanted to play for Republic of Ireland, and they all understood that and completely accepted that, and that's obviously my ambition and my dream. So that's what I'm going to try and do.
Yeah. So you're never tempted.
No, but I think it's important to listen to really good managers like that can give you advice and help you, and just listening to them obviously benefiting you. So
yeah. Just the last one, Jimmy, before we finish up here. I mean, looking back at your time at Sunderland, what do you reflect on? What are your best memories of it? And how do you summarise it, maybe?
Looking back at it now, what I've learned from it, like what the notes I've taken from it, is definitely, if you play for a club like that, and there can be hilly experiences, is to stay level-headed, not listen to kind of outside noise. I needed to keep myself focused through the good, the bad, and the ugly, and I think that's how, as you grow older, you maintain a consistent level of playing football. So I think maybe when I scored my goal, I was maybe like, oh my God, I've scored for Sunderland, we're going to get promoted, this is the best thing in the world. And then maybe when I got dropped the next time, I was like, oh my God, this is the worst thing in the world, what am I doing? We're not going to get promoted, this is terrible, they hate me, all this. I think the biggest lesson I took out of it is that not to get too excited when things are going well, and not too disappointed when they're not. Just to maintain a level of belief. That's probably the most individual thing I've been able to take out from it.
Jimmy Dunne, thanks for coming on. That was a great chat. Cheers.
Delighted. Thanks for that, Michael. Yeah, thank you very much.